Who likes drama? Oh, these damn floodgates. What a waste of time. How am I supposed to find motivation to do well in this game when this happens? So, you guys didn't know, this girl on professional Yu-Gi-Oh Yapper, that's what I'm gonna call it. She entered a road to a regional and went 0-3 drop because holy shit, she got sacked out of her gourd. Round 1, anti-spell. Round 2, rivalry. Round 3, D-barrier. Literally spent $25 to not play the game for 3 hours. What a waste of time. How am I supposed to find motivation to do well in this game when this happens? Not gonna lie, this whole Floodgate drama is just due to a bad regional run. Yeah, as funny as it may seem, the most obvious takeaway is that for any competitive game, just in general, there's always gonna be a winner and a loser. Like, you may think that you may come out of a game and feel like, oh, like, yeah, I'm the best. I outskilled my opponent, like, I outplayed them, whatever. And you're free to feel that way. But at the same time, your opponent is gonna come out of the game feeling, damn, I just got sacked. Damn, I just got my ass beat. Damn, unlucky. And that's just like the reality. And unfortunately, for like every person that wins a regional and goes 8-0, there are people who just are gonna get a bad regional run or just misplay or whatever and go X3. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You're gonna be the person who rolls snake eyes and is just gonna be a victim of statistical probability. Like, bad locals runs, bad regional runs, bad anything runs happen to almost anyone. But that's enough about floodgates. The real drama is, are floodgates necessary / in a good spot right now? But first, this video was brought to you guys by Imperium Duelist. Imperium makes some of the best Yu-Gi-Oh accessories and apparel, full stop. In fact, I religiously used their cherubim oversleeves for over a year at one point. And speaking of accessories, we've come together to create the hoppin' around playmat. You're all my little drama frogs, and I wanted to create a piece of art that is actually some form of usable merch. It comes in 2 colors, monochrome and hot pink, which is my favorite color by the way, and I am in love with how they turned out, both the single and 2-player variants. Pick up a playmat, be sure to use my code Stevie10 on all products for their site for a 10% off discount, and be sure to tag us when yours comes in. Now, if you guys are unaware, a couple lists ago, we had a bunch of floodgates basically just banned. We had anti-spell put to 1, we had summon limit banned, we had Gozen put to 1 a couple lists ago, we had rivalry, we had there could be only 1, we have anti-spell now at 1. There are a lot of floodgates in this format, and it'd be very foolish of me to be like, yeah, floodgates are not a huge part of Yu-Gi-Oh right now, because they are. Like, Bakushka's running around, there's Abyss Dweller that's sometimes being played in Melodious Voiceless Voice. There are just a lot of floodgates that see a lot of play and see a lot of success. The most obvious example is, of course, Rivalry of Warlords. Like, this card is so disgusting right now in the format. This card beats Snake Eyes, it beats Voiceless Voice, it beats Branded Despia, it beats basically fucking everything. That's just the reality. Should these sort of auto-win cards exist within the game? I think that in a platonic universe, I think no. In a perfect ideal universe, everyone could just play some sort of engine, and games are not won off the back of, haha, I flipped skill drain, I win, or anything silly like that. However, in large asterisks, I do think some floodgates are okay, if that makes sense. A deck being able to play a card that actively hurts other decks, that's a non-engine piece, I don't think that that's, you know, like bad card design or something that should be like inherently like looked down upon. I think that Tenpai being able to play Rivalry of Warlords is a cool benefit that that deck is able to have. Because this is a deck that's not able to go first. This is a deck that basically ends on fucking Seal's Pass and a Dream. But I think being able to play cards like Heat Wave, but are only playable in extremely niche decks like Tenpai, I think that that's an okay sort of compromise. We need these type of cards for people who don't want to play hyper combo deck. Exactly. Not everyone wants to play the objectively best deck. And sometimes, for better and for worse, the best way to deal with these decks isn't through, you know, hand traps or board breakers or, you know, more fair traditional types of interaction. Unfortunately, the best way to deal with some decks is just to flip up a fucking summon limit and just be like, wahali, bro, you're cooked. Like, I thought summon limit was a lot more cool and, you know, for fair and balanced when Pearly was playing it, and you would just use like Pearly Happy Memory or whatever to send the summon limit away. I think that that sort of thing was, you know, pretty interesting. However, I do think that like once Snake Eyes started putting in summon limit, that's where things kind of just lost the plot. Like when good decks are able to play these floodgates that are actively like auto win cards with very little, if not no negative downside, then yeah, that's where things are just completely over and these cards should just be gone. But I think with specific cards or specific monsters or whatever that only very, very specific decks are able to play, I think that that's fine. I think that's completely fine to play these sort of cards. Cards like Calamity or Featherstorm are just awful. I'm gonna disagree with you. I think that those cards are, you know, completely unhealthy and completely bullshit. And whenever you run into them, it feels like a fucking jab in the throat. But those sort of cards are, again, restricted to extremely limited decks. Those are cards that only very, very, very specific decks can make. And unfortunately, like, although those cards have been legal for years, they just don't see real widespread competitive success enough to justify seeing banned. Like, there's a reason why Flu is considered an anti-meta deck. It's because Flu is not meta. That's why cards like Dimension Shifter, I think, are completely fine. Because although it can be frustrating to get shifted and just feel like you just waste a turn and you get OTK'd or you get a board built on you, it is very much that deck. It is very much that in the long run, statistically, you're gonna beat the Kashtira player or Fluanderese player like 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, because you're on Snake Eye Fire, because you're on Snake Eye Pure, or you're on Snake Eye Fire King, and you're just gonna beat them 9 out of 10 times. And them just being able to draw like this one silly little sack outlet that, spoiler alerts, against some versions of fucking Snake Eye is just actually completely fine. It's crazy. Like, Snake Eye can still build a board under shifters. It's insane. I don't get too pressed when I lose to Featherstorm because it's just a go next angle. But I would be pressed as fuck if I went outside to go to a locals and I got blown out by cards like that because I spent time out of my life doing that. I mean, objectively true, and I'm not saying your feelings aren't valid at all. You're just speaking of an objective fact that, yeah, it does feel super shitty to just go to a locals and your opponent sets 4 and normal summons a border, and you're just like, why did I even go outside today if I wasn't even gonna play this game in any capacity? But what I am saying, accepting that these sort of cards and decks aren't things that are going to exist within Yu-Gi-Oh! And sometimes you are just gonna get varianced out by not drawing the Imperm for the border, or not drawing the Duster, or the Evenly, or whatever. It just feels like it is something that you, as a player, if you do want to take this game competitively seriously, and you are gonna go grind out YCSs, grind out regionals, grind out Nats, test for like 12 hours a day, it is something that you do kind of have to come to this emotional understanding with, and either tech out your deck and the deck building process in order to minimize the effect that these sort of cards can have, or play a different deck. Like, if you feel that Voiceless Voice is just weak to too many floodgates, then maybe it's time to swap off of Voiceless Voice. Maybe it's time to swap to like Snake Eye Fire. Maybe it's time to swap to Snake Eye Synchro. Maybe you feel that your locals or regional scene is generally unequipped to beat Runic Stun. Maybe it's time to give yourself the best competitive edge. Time to play Pure Melodious. Okay, I don't think that's the real fucking answer. It's time! Bloom Diva! It's time! We're making the Aria lock, baby. But that's just like my 2 cents on floodgates overall. They're pretty uncool. They're pretty frustrating to deal with sometimes. But in reality, there are ways to play around floodgates that just some people don't know. There are ways to play around these sort of cards. And sometimes things can be entirely solved within the deck building phase or the deck choice process overall. But that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on floodgates. Whether you think they have a necessary place, whether you think they don't. And yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. Goodbye forever.